the American racial imperialism, which has penetrated England and has been penetrating us for a good long while now, to be honest.
You're saying we're getting pegged by the Yankees?
Yes, by their ideology, at the very least, which has infiltrated everything to do with us. We all know about all of this, but there are more examples to bring up, because every single week there's another example of England taking on the strangely American standard of we need to be less racist because we need to make up for our evil racist slavery past, when what they're referring to is American slavery.
Their own past, because they had a war and a lot of people died to end slavery, and good on them, but like we just went around the world stopping it with the West Africa and East Africa squadrons.
Shockingly enough, the East, especially the Middle East and East Africa and all this,
a lot of bullying had to happen.
They really weren't a fan of this whole ending slavery thing, and if you, depending on which countries you look at, they still aren't.
Another great argument for bullying, which is stop the slave trade. So
yes, but before I go any further, just to point out that Carl had a good article about this recently, talking about the census data proving that Britain is not a nation of immigrants, because in the past few decades we seem to have been trying to take on the American cultural mythos of always being a nation of immigrants, because America had all of this immigration come in and they built our businesses, they built our country, and that's seemingly being exported over to here as well, which is not true. That's just not true. The English, for thousands of years, shockingly enough, were just English. We had one or two people here and there who showed up who were exceptions, but no, we were very English, and you can look into your own ancestry, you out there watching who are from England, to discover that. But let's take a look at what's going on recently. So many of you might be aware that there was a controversial post done recently for the Platinum Jubilee of the Queen, where Regent Circus, or Regent Street, sorry, just had a load of Union flags flying. Just pretty normal, right? Not if you're on Twitter, not if you're a Twitter leftist, because apparently, according to Twitter leftists, this is basically Nazi Germany now. Because you understand, Nazi Germany flew flags, flying flags.
The only reason we hate the Nazis is because of the flags.
Yeah.
That's the only reason the leftists can find to dislike the Nazis. Everything else they did, they think is, jolly and good, but the flags.
I mean, they hated the Jews, they were for segregation. The left is like, well, so far this is sounding pretty great for me, but flags? No, thank you. But this independent article, Jubilee flags aren't racist, but it's no surprise people think so. This is just another variety on why this is a good thing. The title might as well be Jubilee flags are racist, and that's a good thing. The Union Jack and St. George's Cross have become symbols of the far right. No, there's a pretty definitive thing that they're symbolising. St. George's Cross, for instance, symbolises England. So
you'll find it in your geography textbook, you freak.
Make of that what you will. I guess they weren't paying attention in school. Groups that spew racial hatred towards Britain's ethnic and religious minorities under the guise of patriotism. The festivities of the Queen's Platinum Jubilee are fast approaching, and Regent Street is now decked out with rows of Union Jacks. I look forward to street parties and themed nibbles, but I also can't help but feel slightly apprehensive. Regent Street display has been seen by some Twitter users, because we need to judge all social progress by Twitter users now, as a celebration of Britishness, but others weren't impressed, and comparisons to the streets of 1930s Germany, which were adorned with Nazi flags, have been made. Because this is the only argument they can ever make. I don't like this. Why? Because it looks like Nazism to me. Anything other than the very, very superficial idea that we're flying flags and they were flying flags, no, nothing else, but it's an easy insult to throw at you. For some, the Union Jack is celebratory, patriotic, and evokes a feeling of national pride, yes, to normal English people. But for others, the display is hubristic, and the flag is is symbolic for elitism, colonialism, and fascism. We never had...
No, but are you retarded? The one country that's still alone against fascism at one point during World War II was Britain. Why the hell would it be a symbol of fascism?
I mean, these people don't know what fascism is, and they will never understand, because they don't want to understand, because it's just an insult to throw around. It's basically a slur. But yeah, basically, these people hate everything about this country and want everything changed, and you do need to, in their eyes, be demoralised and ashamed of your past, or else we won't be able to come in and take over with our new regime, because otherwise you might put up a fight, whereas now they're trying to get us into the position where we'll just hold the gates open for the barbarians. And so far it's been working, sadly, at least for the majority of the country. And then let's move along, because there are many, many other articles talking about this sort of stuff. For instance, did you know that the countryside is full of white people?
Yes.
Did you know that English people are mainly the same people farming the countryside in England? What a shock. The Royal Agricultural University is launching a new scholarship scheme to encourage more British students from ethnic minorities to enter the farming sector. Why? Why?
There's a guy on Twitter who made a really funny joke about this.
Go on, do it.
It's just like, we're sending them back out to the fields. It's just like, no. But then again, I can't imagine that not being the justification for these people.
It is true. The analysis by Sky News has found that 97.2% of workers in agricultural, forestry and fishing are white, excluding seasonal workers, making it the least diverse job sector in the country.
I'm imagining some like Londoner who's dressed up as a stubborn plantation owner now being like, why are they all white? Like something's...
Where are all the colours?
Basically.
I mean, that's basically what they're asking here. I mean, what's the problem with it not being diverse? Are they good farmers? Are they doing their jobs right?
Well, they've been doing it for 1,000 years. So far, so good.
Yeah, so far, so good. I don't remember England specifically having any famines. Do you?
Well, historically, yes, but no.
Recently. But the problem is I have seen some government programs talking about how, there's loads of the people in the farming industry, they're all getting old. We need to phase them out and welcome in new talent. Who do you think that new talent's going to be?
I still just hate this rhetoric. They're the new talent. And it's like, well, there was nothing wrong with the guy who's currently doing the farming.
Yeah.
If he's making money, he's doing fine.
He taught his son to do it as well. His son's been doing it for 10 years at this point, just let him carry on with it. No. We need to take away your farm and put them into more diverse hands. Dan Todd Hunter, Director of Academic Services at the RAU, told Sky News increasing diversity in education could reduce barriers. He said, we definitely think there needs to be space for everyone to play a part in agriculture in the land-based sector. Are they feeding you?
What barrier? This is
what is the barrier? Yeah.
Some black guy is like, I'm going to go start a farm. And it's like, okay, that was always allowed.
Yeah.
Like, no one's going to stop you.
All right, no, but it won't be the same unless it was somebody else's farm first that I'm just appropriating from them.
God bless Mugabe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There are some obvious reasons why farming is predominantly white. Is it because English people are predominantly white?
Nah, but the English people are basically Arabs.
They basically don't exist. I mean, have you ever really seen an English person? Firstly, the rural parts of the country are far less diverse, and secondly, many farms tend to have been handed down through generations. Yes, because that, generally speaking, is how farms work. That's how people develop the skills. And guess what? It's their property. They can hand it down to whoever they want. If they want to hand it down to their family, that's none of your business. Ped Asgharian from the organisation Feeding Bristol, said, we do not need to break the mould of it being ultimately an old white man and a tractor working the field, and that's what a farmer is. And then they also spoke to, Ped Asgharian. Is that an English name?
It's a beautiful Iranian name.
Yes. Then he went on about how he calls himself a British Muslim farmer because he left the city after making loads of money, and then is referring to himself as a British Muslim farmer, proving that you're allowed to do this.
Yeah,
you're allowed to do it. No one's stopping anybody from doing this. Maybe it's that people who come over to this country and mainly stay in metropolitan areas don't want to be farmers. If they wanted to be farmers, they could just stay where they came from and be farmers.
Like, their stated preference means nothing. The revealed preference is them not doing it.
Yes, you can make all the complaints you want to the pollsters. It doesn't matter. Your actions speak louder than words. And we've got also possibly some actual racism, or at least something that actually is quite funnily similar to it, which is Calvin Robinson being told that he doesn't know what racism is and being cancelled by the Church of England. So he was shocked to be told in February that his ordination, because he has been training up to become a priest, as far as I'm aware, is likely to be problematic. He applied under the Data Protection Act to see the information the church had on him, and he discovered that the Bishop of Edmonton had been reporting him to church leaders since the beginning of his studies. Robinson went on Good Morning Britain in September 2020 to say he was against Black Lives Matter because it was increasing racial tensions, and he believed that everyone in this country had equal opportunities to succeed, which is just unequivocally true. Calvin is a man who speaks a lot of sense. And the same day in Wickham wrote to the Right Reverend Sarah Mullally, who is the Bishop of London, saying, to bring it to your attention, Calvin Robinson is not only a political commentator, ooh, scary, but he's also an ordinand and former teacher in this area who's just started at the St. Stephen's House. Calvin's comments concern me about denying institutional racism in this country. What does this have to do with worshipping God?
God.
Exactly. What does this have to do with worshipping God? Okay. In December last year, Wickham wrote to the Right Reverend Emma Einson, Bishop to the Archbishop of Canterbury, and also to the Bishop of London. Wickham sent them some of Robinson's tweets, adding these are clear examples as to why his ordination should be looked at very closely. Robinson said he felt betrayed and heartbroken at Wickham's conduct. He said, to hear that people are campaigning behind your back after you have given them all that you've got, I don't know how to put it into words. Robinson said that he requested a meeting with the Bishop of London, who told him, Calvin, as a white woman, I can tell you that the church is institutionally racist. You're the Bishop of London. Surely that's your problem then.
She's there with a clan hood on, being like, Calvin, I need to tell you, you're not welcome round here.
What other implication could you take from
pulls
this?
Pulls out a whip and is just like, get out of here. We don't want you in here.
Yeah, he described her attitude as hushed condescension, which is
not very
a very polite way of putting it. As you would expect from a man like Calvin, very polite, very prim and proper. That's not what happened, Calvin. They were just actively... Oh my God. So white people not allowing a black man a job because he doesn't agree that there's racism.
But that's the thing. Like, you've got to ask the bishop here. Right, lady. Okay, racism against who? Because if it's racism against white people, well then, because she's saying, as a white woman, I know there's racism. Okay, well then we can sort that, can't we? And if it's racism against black people, you're the one doing it. Right now. As you say, he isn't allowed in.
I mean, yeah, obviously
by your own standards.
Obviously we're racist, Calvin. Just watch me. You're fine.
It's like a Brass Eye sketch.
It really is. But Calvin has since called them out on GB News and said, I think he's going off into a more conservative Anglican sect, away from this now.
People who believe in God.
Shockingly enough, that is what the church is supposed to be there for, not anymore. It's now worshipping intersectionality, of course. But people like the Reclaim Party have posted on Twitter saying that we need to hold these people accountable. I mean, if we go along to the next link... They're explicitly saying that they're racist, right? Okay, so this is a remarkable admission of failure of leadership. They must both resign and create a more diverse and equitable church for all. So sign this petition to get them to resign. I mean, they said they're racist. They think racism bad, right? Quit.
Like the leader and all of the leadership are saying, we're institutionally racist. Okay, well, you guys are the institution, so... You
guys are in charge, so this is your fault, surely. I mean... I don't understand it personally, but yeah, if you're interested in getting these absolute knob jockeys to resign, sign the petition. There you go. And along with all of this, the UK's first national black British civil rights group has launched in a bid to end systemic racism. All of that systemic racism held within the church, presumably. Let's take a look through the GB News article here.
We will not stop until the Church of England is no more.
Ancient enemies coming back, just in a new face. A group of the UK's most influential black leaders have launched the Black Equity Organisation to advance justice and equality for black people in Britain. Now, this just seems like an American organization to me. This is why I'm saying that this is American racial imperialism, because we do not historically have the same problems as America. Unlike America, who imported a lot of their black population originally as slaves, as part of the slave trade, we asked a bunch of people from Windrush, from
the Empire.
Yeah, from the Empire to come over.
All of them were free. They could have said no.
Yeah, they could have said no, and they came over here, and yes, they experienced prejudice, but for the most part, they were presumably given better lives over here than they would have had over there, which is why they came here in the first place.
Otherwise, they would have gone back.
Yeah, we aren't holding them here. We didn't force them over here, but now apparently we have the same historical problems as America. The organisation is the UK's first national and independent civil rights group, and its launch coincides with the second anniversary of the murder in the US of George Floyd, which sparked Black Lives Matter anti-racism protests against the world. I mean, once again, this happened in America. I don't see why it has to affect anything over here. Chairman of the trustees, Dame Vivian Hunt, said given the cost of living crisis, it's more urgent than ever that we have a voice for black Britons, because cost of living crisis hits blacks most affected, is the message I'm getting there. She said, George Floyd anniversary is significant because it really was a tragic event that resulted in a real global response. Technology meant that we all saw the videos and injustice in real time, and the reaction you saw across the streets of Britain and all around the world was a very human reaction to human rights violations and particular recognition that we simply haven't done enough around black people's lived experience. I was really struck that the protests, response and empathy in the UK were not only black Britons. Surely that's racism on her part. You mean white people can care about people who aren't white? The shock, the absolute audacity of it. I never saw this one coming.
But also the idea that people haven't done a lot to do. I mean, a lot of people are trying to stop Mexican fentanyl from turning up in the United States. They're really trying to stop this happening again with everything they can do.
The border wall, for instance, was a fantastic attempt. They just don't want to see George Floyd happen twice, There were people from all walks of life, huge amounts of young people, and a real response at a human level to the injustices that black Britons continue to face. Almost like people are nowhere near as racist as you're trying to make them out to be. And once again, George Floyd was American. For me, that moment 2 years ago was a real awakening of how deeply engaged every household is around fairness and equality of opportunity. This is not about equality of opportunity, this is about equity, you liar, which are different things. Everybody wants the same things for their children. Black families in Britain are not any different. So they just go on with platitudes, and we need to end systemic racism, reduce racism. Oh, isn't it terrible that we're living in a white supremacist society?
We don't know where it is, we can't point to it, but it needs to end.
Yep. Historian and presenter Professor David Olusoga, who is a historical revisionist and author of the book Black and British, which is, of course, trying to find the tiniest little examples of, there was a black guy in the 1500s once. There you go.
He was part of King Henry's court and blew a horn, and that's all we know.
Yeah, but that's an example of how England's always been a multiracial, multi-ethnic, multicultural country.
A black man turned up in England, and that alone made him so noteworthy he became part of the court. So basically, they were everywhere and normal and common.
And if you deny this, you're a massive bigot and racist. So it makes sense. They've got a bunch of other people. Dame Vivian said that we decided to launch an independent national black civil rights organisation to dismantle patterns of systemic racism in Britain and really drive generational change so that the lived experience of black Britons and all Britons improved. It includes images taken by photographer Misan Harriman, the first black man to shoot a cover of British Vogue. So just in that sort of thing, you can tell right here, because that was a video produced by them, this is not about fairness, this is about getting political privileges, as these things always are. And to return to Calvin, he asked a fantastic question of this in a tweet, if we go to the next one, which is just, what rights are they protesting for that they don't already have? Name them. They can't, because they're not looking for rights, they're looking for privileges. And just to see the effects of some of the way that this is going over in the UK right now, because of the fact that this is infiltrated, this whole systemic racism attitude has infiltrated every major institution that you can think of. This is already affecting police. I mean, the police in the UK are not amazing right now. God knows we've covered all of their failings multiple times. But this is not helping, because we've got here a Daily Mail article, How Chiefs Got a Mauling on Day One from a woke watchdog. Row erupts after launch of race issues plan as leaders refuse to agree over the institutionally racist label. In a farcical scenes after the action plan was announced, the leaders refused to agree or disagree with the label. They were chastised by Chairman Ambibola Johnson, another beautiful British name right there, the barrister in charge of the Independent Scrutiny and Oversight Board overseeing the project, who declared it was an easy question to answer. She added it was disheartening that senior police leaders could not accept the phrase institutionally racist, a term first used to describe Scotland Yard after blunders allowed the racist killers of black teenager Stephen Lawrence to escape justice in 1993. So they're obviously pointing to an old example there, which might have some actual racism in them, but that was then. This is now. What they're basically just saying is submit to our ideology, accept that you're racist or else. And this is not promoting unity within the police forces, which you would kind of hope would have some unity in them to make it function better.
It doesn't make any logical sense either. Racism happened before, therefore racism now.
Yes, racism happened before. Not even necessarily that racism happened now, more you racist now. That's what they're saying. And then I found this amazing article from The Times where polls have been taken recently, which states that diversity is what makes us British. And
no, stop there. That's 100% true. Fine. Great.
Yep.
Okay, well, British is to be diverse, in which case then that's part of the empire.
Okay.
Let's let it go.
There you go. You can go out to your own countries, which are all part of the empire, and be diverse there. Why don't you?
United States, British.
But yeah, so the
all of Africa, British.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the things that's making me think. Yeah, this is one of the things that's making me like, yeah, Peter Hitchens, secession from the UK. Good. Scotland got to keep their...
Other direction. Everything's British now. Everything that's diverse is definitely part of the British Empire.
No, because think about it. Scotland got to keep their national identity, whether they're diverse or not. Wales, they're still trying to keep theirs. England has been... You're told there is no such thing as English culture. There's no such thing as English people. And if we were to just separate entirely, we're like, well, this is England now. That's all it is, that we can reclaim some of our identity, at least somewhat. But yeah, so they've just asked a bunch of people, about 2,000 people. 3/4 of the respondents think a wide range of backgrounds and culture is part of British cultures. Go down to the first graph here, John, just so we can see. Yeah, look at the change. In 10 years, people have gone in these polls from saying that about 50% were like, actually, this whole cultural backgrounds and diversity undermines British culture, so to only 28%. I mean, this may depend on who they're asking. They might be going to more progressive places to ask the pollsters. But this does show a massive change in attitudes. And then the second one was that despite the fact that 72% of these people were saying, oh, it's what makes us British, this next one, race relations, still 1/4 of ethnic minority respondents do not think race relations between different ethnic groups are better now compared to 1952. So diversity is what makes us British, but also you're still horribly racist to me. Gimme things for free. And
no, but just more diversity, the worse things get.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, ethnic minorities, for your opinion.
And there was a particularly scary quote in here, which was, 70 years on, we know who we are. The diversity of our society is a settled fact. Which just reminds you of the science is settled, doesn't it? This isn't a question you're allowed to ask anymore. This isn't a subject you're allowed to broach. If you disagree, what they're saying is you are on the wrong side of history because it's a settled fact. Are you just disagreeing with the facts? That's what we're going. But if you're going to try and tell me that England is racist, if Britain is racist in general, can you point out where the racism is? Because as far as I can tell, every single institution has a diversity pledge, has some kind of thing saying we want more diversity. For instance, the Arts Council, if we move along, have a diversity pledge where they're talking about diversity, equality, equity, all of that stuff. The College of Police have to go through all of this, which probably explains why our police are so completely useless, because they're too busy being indoctrinated into intersectional ideology than being taught how to protect their communities. The Bank of England as well, the people in charge of the money, are being told that diversity is more important than competence. And then the government in general also has a diversity and inclusion strategy from 2018 to 2025, which I looked through and talks about they want to be inclusive by instinct. So you just need to naturally, if you see a black man and a white man applying for a job, you need to instinctively go for the black man, because this is normal behavior. And they literally refer in this document to intersectionality being the guiding ideology. So this is just captured. As far as I'm aware, all of the institutions are captured, and this is not English, this is not British, this is American ideology. And as far as I can tell, I can't see any racism. Can you?
Well, I can. Just not against ethnic minorities.
Not the racism that they want to see.
The institutional racism against the white applicants, yes.
Yes.
I mean, they're stating it.
But that's all I've got for there.
If you appreciated that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to check out all the content we have on the site. Such as this video, Boris was elected as a radical, from Carl. And if you want to follow what else Carl's putting out, you can follow him on Getter at Carl Benjamin on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.